Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to episode, I think we're 140 of DevChatter. And we are going to be doing some coding today, some discussion. We're going to be talking about some accessibility and design. So that'll be a little bit different, as these past handful of streams we've done have been game development of our stream game. I will let you all know that if you do want to play the game, it is still current. It is available and I think should be running, but I will confirm that and make sure that it's going to run while we are streaming today. If you are new to the stream, feel free to follow along, watch, chat, ask questions, anything like that. If you're wondering anything, you want to ask either of us, we should both be in chat. And you'll probably notice I just said us, and that is because I am not alone today. So I would like to make sure that I point out to everybody that you should all say hello and welcome our guest that's up there, up in the corner. That's not really her, that is a static image. They can do that now in computers. And the guest that we have on the stream is Rachel, and I will let her tell you a little bit about herself. So Rachel, go ahead and say whatever you want to say.
Well, hello, Brendan. I am Rachel Appel, and I work in web development, mostly ASP.NET, of course, stuff like HTML and all of that good stuff. And accessibility, which is what we're going to talk about today, is something that I tend to focus on a bit as well.
Sounds good. So I guess the focus of today then will be we'll call it scary. I guess it's not that bad. It's just more bland and blank and in some ways reasonably accessible still because it's bland and we didn't do. It's not like this is vibrant colors or something.
No, but bland is actually pretty good. Less is more very often.
Yes. I'd say the worst thing on this page is the green on green text on interval messaging.
Yep.
But that's probably the worst thing here. But other than that, so as we mentioned, we want to look at accessibility stuff. So where do you want to start? Where do you want me to click? What do we want to...
So the first thing we could do just to get started and center ourselves about what it is. When we say accessibility, people tend to think, oh, disabled people. And yeah, sure, that might encompass writing software so that folks who would consider themselves disabled can use it. Mm-hmm. But also for writing software for everybody. Things that you'll notice is that things that are created, products, not just software, but things in the physical world as well, things that are created with accessibility in mind tend to actually help those who consider themselves more able-bodied as well. Certain things you'll notice right off the bat would be low contrast. The green on green there isn't too bad, but how many times have you been to a website and it is very light gray on white, and you have to highlight the text with your mouse to make it like the dark blue background and white if you're on a Windows machine, or something like that, just to be able to read it, which is it's very hard on your eyes. So contrast, or if the fonts are so tiny that you can't read them, with the aging population, especially the baby boomers, we need better fonts and better scaling of websites and things like that as well. Just to name a few things off the top that, if you write with accessible users in mind, it's also going to help your regular users. So that's one thing. And I tend to not like to think of them as disabled or anything like that, because they're often not. That's not always the case. But some of the folks in that area may consider themselves that. That's fine. But there's a couple of major categories to be aware of, and one is visual, which we'll talk about a lot doing web design and web development. Then, of course, you have auditory, and that one's an easy one. If you're providing videos, if somebody is deaf, they can only look right? So you need to
Yep.
do something like provide a transcript or closed captions. And that's really what you need to do for the audio part of it. And then, of course, there's motor and cognitive areas that we need to focus on. And those come with slightly different ways to interact.
So motor would be like bigger targets to click on and things, right?
It could be things like that, yes. A lot of people have what's called essential tremor or get tremors in their hands when they're older. And a lot of folks just simply using a mouse is hard. If you have arthritis, it could be very difficult. So there's a lot of accessible input devices like the trackpad and the trackball were meant for those purposes. And people who didn't necessarily have arthritis or some kind of motor impairment said, hey, this actually is comfortable. I like this. Apple even has a really great trackpad that everybody raves over. So stuff like that. But motor difficulty could also be from an injury, illness. It could be congenital. There's all sorts of all sorts of things.
Someone pointed out that it could be as
area.
simple as like clicking on a small link on a phone. So like,
yeah, exactly.
It could be just caused by what device you have, or and along those lines, you mentioned like it could be the person's hand that has the tremor. But I've also gotten stuck using a mouse that was pretty darn bad and did that own tremor in its own. So it's like, some people are putting it like, it actually could be their hardware.
Remember when the mice had those little balls in them and you have to take it out and like clean it off? Those were terrible. But that's just how it was for a while, right? But it would be similar to that.
Yep.
So that's some of it. There's also cognitive impairments. Dyslexia is a big one. There's also a lot of people who have seizures, and some interesting websites that pop up like very swirly, strobing, flashing videos without warning. And that can actually put somebody right into a seizure if you do things like that. So easy enough for stuff like that is just to give people a warning. You know, we're going to have strobing content. So you can move away or do something. Sometimes it's a very, very simple fix.
Yeah, I've seen like YouTube videos before that have a warning in the beginning that do mention that they do have that content in the video. So
yeah, they all definitely should. I always wonder about this one. I fly a lot and I go through the Detroit airport, and Chicago has something similar, I believe. But there's a tunnel that connects two of the terminals. And there's all of this multicolor, like the walls are made out of some kind of digital screen, and it's all multicolor, and it does like a strobing effect. And, you know, just not even having any kind of seizure disorder, sometimes you get a little disoriented in this long, otherwise dark tunnel. And I wonder how people with epilepsy or something like that actually make it through that tunnel sometimes. So that's
it's an interesting challenge.
So those are the things we want to think about, broad categories, and the fact that it applies to everybody. But if you look at what would be called the accessible user base, it's roughly 20% of the population. So if you throw out the number 20% to any manager, and they're not all over that like a pit bull, there's something wrong with them, right? So you could be blocking up to 20% of your users depending on what it is that you're doing or not doing with your site. So that's something to consider, is that there's money to be made here, right? Sometimes your advertisements actually make it impossible for users to visit the site, therefore to get more money from advertising. So sometimes people shoot themselves in the foot by simply not being accessible. And then again, it also comes back to, it's going to help those who don't consider themselves an accessible user as well. The other thing is it's low effort, the kind of changes that we tend to make. There's a lot of really easy changes that have big effects, and it doesn't take much effort. to get some of the biggies out of the way, which is a good thing. So first thing I tell people to do is go to this website called WebAim.org, WEBAIM.org, and there you'll see this is like your one-stop shop for everything accessibility. So they have everything from like training and certifications, and they participate with the W3C. So there are accessibility standards defined there. And here they have all sorts of cool stuff that you can check out on the site. So I always send people there first because it just has so many great resources to it. If you look, some of the current features on the front page is like understanding contrast and color and stuff like that. So those are some of the biggies. So let's take a look at that. Now, your site is actually pretty good, right? So it's very standard issue. Right? You have your light background and just a regular black text. And about probably the most inaccessible would be just that bar that on this page anyway, that says interval messaging. So if you wanted to fix that, that's easy. You could just make that a darker, like the darkest green available if you wanted to do that.
Darken this, lighten the background or something, just so there's more contrast.
Right, so just make it more contrast. Other than that, the contrast is generally pretty good here. And for the menus, it's just the opposite. You have dark with light. Things you don't want are, like I said, that like a light gray on white, or even certain grays on a dark background. And there is contrast checkers. If you go to any search engine and you look for a contrast checker, as a matter of fact, WebAim has one. So, and that's usually the first hit. So if you go to WebAim, you could go to the contrast checker, and there you could plunk in those colors and see if it works for you, and it'll give you a ratio right there.
Oh, that's a nice idea.
Yeah, so it makes it really nice and easy to work with. So, and contrast is probably one of the biggest things. It just makes it so much easier for everybody that you have clear contrast. Now, as part of this, WebAim, they have a link to it on here as well in WebAim. But there's what's called I can actually pass the link over Skype to you or Twitch or something.
Okay. I will watch for the link.
Let's see. Here in the chat. I can put that right in the chat. Right there at w3c.org. There's the WCAG checklist. And so how easy is this? They give you a list of stuff to do, right? And you go down, yes, I made sure my contrast is correct. Yes, I made sure this works. Yes, I made sure that works. And a lot of this is just a simple CSS change. If you look at guideline 1.2, like captions are provided for pre-recorded multimedia. I did that if I have a video or whatever.
One of the ones that I think is really important that doesn't even really fall into accessibility, but sort of does. Because by this I mean it does fall into accessibility 100%. But I think it's extremely important for other reasons too. Make all functionality operable via a keyboard interface. And I'm like, yeah, because it's usually much faster if you don't have to touch your mouse. Like you already had to type something in. Why not do everything with the keyboard?
Yep, exactly. That's like I keep saying, if you're going to help accessible users, but it's also going to help those who also don't consider themselves accessible.
Yes.
So whenever you make one of those changes, it's generally just a good design and good programming guideline to start with. So there's colors, another big one though, like our contrast. The other one is, so there's color blindness as well. It does affect like maybe 10% of the population, depending. And it's not just seeing like shades of gray or black and white. There's actually different types of color blindness in which you see colors skewed or different than others. So let's see, there should be like a colorblind, I don't know if I could find the link to it. There are some colorblind checkers where you can actually upload a file and then see what it looks like to somebody who's colorblind. And let me see if I could find maybe a link for something like that as well. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them, but I have like a good one that shows a nice little picture of it too. Oh yeah, there it is, the colorblindness. That's the one with the crayons. That's when I was looking for my link there. So you could see the different types. So you have like normal sight, and then red weak, green weak, and then you just look at how those colors look. Now, if it's just a picture of crayons like that, okay, you don't need multiple photos with different, colors of the crayons. But what happens is, for say like OK and cancel buttons or other UI features that
if you were trying to distinguish them using color.
Right, you don't want to distinguish them with color because sometimes it's not what you think it is, right? It's a totally different look to somebody else. So things like even putting the little red asterisk for required, well, that might be such a dull color, somebody might not even notice it. So things like actually putting the word required, or, even if you have red and green buttons, they might actually look really similar to somebody, but you need to actually label them with like OK and cancel, or yes and no, or something that clearly denotes what they do. So anything where you want someone to take an action like that, like a button or something like that, just make sure that it's not, color isn't the only way to determine what it does. So yeah, the one right there is perfectly fine. It just says create. You don't need any color at all, right? You just need the fact that you could click there and you have a word to do that thing, which is really the most important thing. So less is more very often. So, and then you don't have to worry about things like people saying, well, that button is red. No, it's not. It looks like this other color as well. Mm-hmm. And these things are simple changes. I mean, all you need to do is go into a CSS file and change your class for all your button colors, or, it's most likely somewhere in a CSS file. And you usually only need to change that in that one location. If not, you have other problems, which we won't be able to help you with here today, right? If you're repeating that code all over the place. So there's some of the main ones right there. Those are very easy changes, right? Making sure your contrast is clear, it's CSS, and then the colors are clear. And then you could see what images and things look like as well. So that helps out quite a bit for many, many people being able to do that. So another thing that you could do as well, and I don't think they have these in the ASP.NET templates, right? Because that looks like an ASP.NET template.
This is ASP.NET Core's template.
Yep. So if we have somebody who has low vision or completely blind, right? Maybe they're legally blind, which doesn't necessarily mean you can't see anything. You just, usually if it's in the US at least, legally blind means you can't drive anymore. And your sight is just deteriorated enough that you shouldn't be driving. But you might still have some sight, but you might be completely blind. Those people end up using screen narrators and other input devices. So you mentioned about the input order, right? And the input order is important, or actually doing tab and keyboard, right? So input order, tab and keyboard, making sure that those things are available and working properly, that your tab order is in a reasonable order, and that you're not running JavaScript to focus on that first text box. Because what happens is a lot of low-sighted folks will be using a screen narrator, And the screen narrator starts to read, but then JavaScript just runs and gets in the way. And then it has to refocus and start reading that. And that's very confusing. And what I tell people to normally do is there's many free screen narrators. And I think one even comes with Windows anymore. But the one that I like that's free it's called NVDA. And you could download this and it will narrate everything. It'll narrate your desktop apps, your OS stuff, web pages, and all of that. So yeah, just almost like NVIDIA, just NVD. Oh, I think I saw it there. Yeah, non-visual desktop access. So that's a good one. Another one called JAWS is a good one as well. And I can't remember if that one is a pay-for one or not at this point. And there's also a few others that are browser extensions. So there's like a Web Anywhere, it's called, for Chrome and Firefox, and I think one for Edge by now. So being that they have all these free ones, you can just go and download it and run it. And I tell people to load up your web page and run the screen reader and sit and listen to it.
Yeah.
And see what it says and see if you can actually use the site. And most of the time, people are going to find out that they really can't. It's really difficult. And even if you can, something that happens is it's really annoying, like annoying AF, kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So what will happen is you have those links at the top of your web page.
Yep. And these probably get read first.
Yep, they get read first. And then if you click on one to navigate to another page, the screen reader is going to go through and read it again. And remember, the screen reader is not a sighted person. It's reading from the HTML and what's behind the document. It's not necessarily just what you see on the screen. So if something is marked as, say, invisible, it might skip over it. If something, and we often do this with JavaScript, right? We'll have things that are hidden and then we will show them. Mm-hmm. So things like that can sometimes get in the way. Now that might take a little bit more work to deal with stuff like that for the JavaScript part, but things like this with the links, to have it not be repeating that same link bar over and over again, you could do what's called a skip link. And this is really easy, but it saves. You could save minutes every time a page is reloaded. Because you think about this, it takes a lot longer for a screen reader to get through a page than a human to scan with their eyes. Mm-hmm. So what you could do is just go in, and in this case, it would be in your layout page.
Yep.
And all you do is, since you have a bunch of links there at the top, take one of them that would go to your main content and just change the anchor to go there and put one of your ahref with the pounds just to do a named anchor where the main content is. So you could do stuff like that. So there maybe, instead of just having home, you could have like your main content or something, and it should be right in the beginning, if you could have it right in the beginning, just like a little link to main content for this page. And then just put a named anchor where that main content starts. And then when the screen reader gets to that, people could just hit tab and just roll, or enter and just roll right on into that main content.
So then if down here in the body, if we gave this like an ID of main content.
Yeah, so just a named link like that, yep. And I don't remember if you have to just have that as an anchor or if you can do that with an ID and a div. I think you could do it like that, but. Now, some people don't like the fact that like you might have your menus, your menu bar, but also this little extra link in the beginning that goes to the content so that they could skip over all of the other, the sidebars and the nav and all that stuff. That's fine. If you don't want to show that, it comes down to CSS. What you could do is just don't make it like invisible, because then the screen reader will not read it.
Because it shouldn't read the invisible stuff, clearly.
Yep. So what you can do is just position it up to a -1.
So no one else sees it.
So nobody sees it, and just shove it way up in the top corner, and you're good there. So that's all. If if it really bothers you as an eyesore or you don't want to see it. But often, if you have like a nice little content link there, it's very easy and it kind of works pretty nicely anyway. But that's up to, however people want to do their aesthetics is fine. So, but that's really all you have to do for skip links. And that actually creates a so much better experience for people, because if you do download the screen reader and you just sit there, it takes forever. It's amazing that folks with low sight can get anything done on the web. When I give talks, like I'll even bring up Twitter and Google, which Google's a really small web page when you think about it visually.
Well, that was the whole thing that was great about it a long time ago.
Right. Yep. So yeah, less is more. It's definitely a less is more. And then Twitter is not that bad either if you think about it. It really just has a couple of links at the top, your home, notifications, and messages. But then it has some stuff going down the side. But even like that, just getting through stuff with a very simple menu bar, it can be really difficult, and it keeps reading it over and over and over again, and it's kind of annoying and all of that, just to get a couple of tweets or whatever. So, yeah, so you definitely want the skip links in there. And like I said, it's just a matter of changing your href and pointing one at a main content somewhere, wherever you think that should be. Yeah, and then just make sure that you have that in every page.
And the nice thing is you can do this pretty easily in the layout, because I just modified it so the div around my render body has that ID, so this is already on every page.
Yep, that's the nice thing about the layout pages and ASP.NET, and of course, non-Microsoft technology also has these sorts of concepts with
everybody's had this forever, but it's nice because you can just do this. So by the same token that this becomes just a change in your layout, it's the same thing with, you were mentioning that, you could just do a CSS style change to fix some of the other stuff we were talking about. So there's centralized places.
And if you think about that, your site here doesn't have a whole lot of, color or contrast issues or things like that. But even if it did, it's still, again, it's just changing some CSS and then adding in a skip link, which is just changing your layout page. And then you've expanded the ease of use for what equates to be like millions of people, which is, it's a pretty good number right there. So if you consider how many, let me see if I remember the stats, I believe like 64 million in the US report that they have an accessible issue, or no, 62.8, and 640 million worldwide, out of all of the internet users that are out there, which is 1.4 billion, something like that, or a little bit more even by now. So yeah, we're talking a lot of people, and I'm going to assume that everybody wants most of their websites to be more available to more people. And even if you're not going after large audiences, even if it's an intranet for your company, your company is going to have a diverse population, right? People with all sorts of different medical needs and other kind of needs, right? Ranging throughout the spectrum. So like I said, I don't try to think of it as disability, but it's really just catering to the range of the human spectrum of ability, and not just ability, but how people perceive and work with and interact with software. and hardware as well. So you can get to the much more challenging aspects, which is, people who use like a single access switch or a mouth wand. And these were things that even Stephen Hawking had used at one time. That's even a bigger challenge, right? So if you were specifically to make some changes for those, that might take a little bit more of actually watching some users and things like that. But you would still want some of these practices, like they could benefit from skip links. Mm-hmm. But if somebody with like a mouth wand taps on the wrong link, it's so much more of a pain for them than it is, me holding a phone or just clicking on the wrong spot. And I click on the wrong stuff all the time. My hand just always misses something by like a centimeter, and I'm like launching the wrong stuff out of the taskbar and everything. So
every once in a while people hear me swear on the stream because I accidentally clicked on something like the Postman link instead of GitHub or something like that, and they don't see it because it loads up on the other screen, but it's like, I'm like, dang it, stupid thing. So
right, and it's frustrating enough for us, and imagine if you had to use accessible technology, it's like even more frustrating. So those users are out there. Now, it's not like you'll have to sit and go through this checklist and say, well, there are users that use a trackball, there are users that use a single access, or users that use a Braille reader, and I have to do X, Y, and Z.
I assume that you just go through a basic set of guidelines that just happen to hit those same groups.
Bingo, that's exactly it. So if you go through that checklist, that WCAG checklist that I brought before, that is going to give us all of what we need that should help those assistive technologies work better. And a lot of folks think, well, hey, why don't they just make better technologies? But when they polled people who consider themselves heavily accessible users, they said, we don't actually want better technology because that doesn't quite keep up with the internet. What we want are just people not writing such crappy websites. That's what we want is, stuff where, is the button red or green? I don't know, right? And my technology is not going to help me. And I like to remind people, I think we're both actually using accessible technology right now, right? Because you wear glasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
So do I, right? And people tend to forget that. That's an accessible technology. It's low tech, but it is.
Well, let's put it this way. If I take my glasses off, there's a big white rectangle and some dark stuff around it on my screen over there.
So farsighted, I guess, right? Yeah, I'm nearsighted, so I can see stuff if my face is kind of close to it. But then everything else is a blob past like 2 or 3 feet. It's all blobs. So, yep. But yeah, and not just accessibility, but as people age, just the aging process. Your eyes just tend to weaken a little for most people. And other things happen, like your motor skills. You're not as agile as when you were 20, right? I don't care what you keep telling yourself, but you're not, so you might get a small tremor, or, something might pop up that makes it a little bit harder for you, even if you're super comfortable with technology, even if you're from the generations that grew up, playing Nintendo and working on computers. And even if you're like us and you work in this field, you might have a hard time at some point interacting with technology, and it might be an accessible issue. And I would venture to say everybody at some point will have this. I mean, if you think about it, if you break your arm, you might be out for a month or two, but you might need some accessible technology to help. You might not be able to use the mouse, or it might take you longer to do things. So there's all kinds of illness and injury that people can get themselves into that can cause them to be temporarily accessible or have temporary accessible needs. So we need to consider that as well. And then once again, just to bring up the aging population, like nobody's getting younger, right? That's just a fact. So at some point, we're all going to get to that end of life period, and technology is in full swing now. So we're only going to have more of it. It's going to happen faster. So the devices may or may not keep up with it, but as programmers, we do have to make sure we at least account for this range, the spectrum of human behavior and ability and, medical issue and aging and all of that stuff.
Yep, because in a lot of countries, especially at least for a lot of us, because the English-speaking world, the population is getting to have a lot more older people as a percentage of the whole group.
Yeah, and you notice with phones as well, like smartphones are really great about this. I kind of like a mobile first approach in things because it kind of makes you trim out a lot of the fat.
Because we talked about some of the things like if you want to be able to click on something, you have to be able to click on it on the phone. And if you made it for the phone, that's also probably easier to click on not on the phone.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to paste another link in here. Okay. Here's one other thing that we want to do. So it's the wave from WebAim. First off, it's pretty cool because it's called the wave. But you go ahead and you could pick out a site and type in the URL. You can go ahead and try whatever one that you want.
Let's see, what's a good website?
Do you have a personal site or something? And then what it'll do is it'll actually just go through and it shows a accessible keyboard. There you go. Hey, it's not supposed to do that.
I might have to do that. Maybe it didn't like the redirect.
Oh, if it's not publicly available or something.
Should be.
You could try my site. Let's see.
Oh,
I'm not sure. I always put in the HTTP, but I don't know if that's
apparently it was required.
Yeah, okay. All right. So what it'll do is you see there under the summary. So it gives you a whole bunch of different stuff like errors. So that would be like a whole, hey, not an error per se, but this is a not accessible piece of your site, right? And then alerts where it's kind of like, yeah, you could probably do better. And then I like the green, right? Because that'll come up and tell you, yes, you've done it well. And then some questions and stuff like that. But you'll also see there's right above the word summary, styles, no styles, and contrast. So you can actually check your contrast there. You could check it with and without styles. And something that you'll notice too that I almost forgot to mention would be one of the things is you have images. Your site didn't really have a lot of images that we were looking at, the little sample. But alt tags, like we always say, like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to put in an alt tag, and then you totally forget about it, especially if the image, or at least the metadata, is maybe driven from a database, or, now with the cloud, we might actually be storing the images in, blob storage or something like that. So people are grabbing the images and putting them on a site, and they forget the alt tag. So it's more than just when you hover the mouse over and you get a cool little, tool tip. Screen readers actually use that to tell people what's happening in the image. So if you have somebody with low sight, that alt tag is very important. Now, if it's just a background image, then you could do, that's the first, I was thinking of that, like XKCD does this really well.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, they do that.
Yep. Well, in their case, that's like kind of a fun dual purpose, right?
Yes, they're doing something special with this because the comic itself is already going to be difficult because the screen reader can't even read the text in there, as far as I know. And even if it can, it might have trouble with the handwriting.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they didn't. I never looked at the source, but I wonder if they don't have the source somewhere where a reader can get to it or something. But let's just see.
Yeah, so they definitely have, so we can see the alt text right there. Well, there's alt text and there's also the title on the image, which is what we see when we mouse over it. But yeah, it might have the Well, it seems
and that either way, that's a simple thing to get the alt. And you're supposed to be doing this anyway, right? It's one of those, you're supposed to be doing it, like flossing your teeth. You're supposed to be doing it anyway,
Well, so, like if the image fails to load, even it doesn't matter, who the user is. If the image failed to load, you might want a description of what was supposed to be there.
Right.
Maybe the cloud that you hosted the images on is having some kind of blip, and the image doesn't load. Who knows?
Right. There could be so many different things. But yeah, so you see there, you can download this tool too. You can put it right into your CI process or whatever. I mean, that you don't have to just
make sure that you don't have any errors, for example.
Right. So you can incorporate this into your build. And if you look at what we're talking about, most of the stuff is, it kind of does fall under, stuff you should kind of do anyway, right? Making the contrast a good contrast. Like, even if, let's just pretend there were no accessible users. You should just be doing that anyway, because a low contrast color just doesn't look good either. It's hard to read for a perfectly sighted person. So those are some of the big visual aspects. Also, things that kind of, now your site should be fine with this, the small sample site. We could look at your DevChatter site. I mean, this actually looks fine too. So organizing the content itself into clear sections with clear headers. And yeah, there I see learn to code in C# series. Right, there's a menu
this
just
is probably
popped up.
The biggest violation right here is my navigation menu color.
Is that that's kind of it's a really light.
Yeah, the text, if the text in here were bolded, it'd probably be easier to read, because menu's not hard to read, but the other ones are.
And so is that a JavaScript pop-up though?
It's a good question. I don't remember. I'm guessing no.
Okay. So, because a lot of times if it's a JavaScript pop-up, that can make it difficult for a screen narrator. Because anytime JavaScript runs, where the narrator is kind of chugging along, and then something pops up, the narrator goes like, "Oh, whoa, JavaScript ran, and I have to go there and attend to it and read it." So that can happen. So you just want to watch that with the menus, or make sure that they're keyboard navigable as well, right? So that somebody using alternative input devices can get to it. But here it's pretty clear, right? You have like 2 columns there, and it just tells you, learn the code and a little something about your followers. So how many times do you go to a site? As a matter of fact, I saw an article that talked, it was one of those picking on millennial or the even younger than them generation kind of article.
Gen Z,
Yeah, whatever the kids are these days, right? Just get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Generation. And they said a lot of the kids graduating high school now, if they read a page like, take any random news site, Business Insider, CNN, whatever. They said they start reading, and then they sneak. How they sneak little ads in the middle. And they said they actually can't even tell what is an ad and what isn't, because they just grew up with ads just kind of merged and blended into the content that they can't even tell. So I guess yay if you're a sneaky marketer, it's working, at least with people who grew up with that saturation of content and advertisement. But you want to watch, if it's not very clear and concise, the screen reader is going to it has to go through the ad. Well, depending on how the ad is. If it was put there by JavaScript.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm brave enough to go to a random site on the internet that's going to show an ad to...
Right now, right? But you could think, and how many times do you go to a news site or something, or any of these, sites that get shared on social networking, and they'll have ads going up and down the left and the right, in the middle. And sometimes I've even read an article, and I thought the article was cut off or somebody abruptly ended it, but here was just ads. And then if you scroll past them, there's actually the rest of the article. And, I'm like, wow, like I'm somebody who's pretty digitally versed, right? I work in this industry. And here I thought once or twice that an article was just either abruptly ended and the author just bugged out really early and it was odd, or the website just wasn't displaying the whole article. Yep. Here it was just that an ad was in the middle, and I'm like, well, that's not where I would put an ad, but.
Yeah, the number of times I've seen one of those ads and I was like, oh man, I was hoping the article went longer than this. And then I end up scrolling down a little further. I'm like, oh, no, it does. Never mind. Okay.
Yep. So if that gives us a problem and we're people who are versed in using this technology, building these things, imagine how it is for somebody who considers themselves disabled or have accessible needs. It's going to be even more difficult. And these things annoy people enough to drive them right off of your site. Another terribly evil thing that I see happening is a lot of, and particularly news sites. You go to the news site and a video will just kind of slide on in from the left to the right.
And
then it starts playing, sound is on, it starts playing, and the button to close it is like 2 pixels by 2 pixels. All right, the little
most
X,
important one is this button right here, the mute site.
Which is great for us, but if you're using a screen reader, this thing is going to interrupt the screen narrator. If somebody's using something like a mouth stick, they can't even use that site at all. Right? They're just stuck watching that ad. So it's like for people who can't get to that mute site, it's just horrible. And then they end up they leave your site and they don't come back.
Yep. One of the other ones that gets me that I don't know how screen readers handle this, it irritates me. Well, there's actually a lot of things that irritate me on these sites, but is like when the bar drops down from the top of the screen to say something like, hey, yeah, you should, follow our newsletter or whatever, like while I'm using the site. And I'm just sitting there reading, and then all of a sudden everything shifts down 2 inches so they can tell me to follow the newsletter.
Yes, that's also not a very accessible practice because that is almost always JavaScript. And then again, the JavaScript reader was chugging, or the screen narrator was chugging away. And then now, whoops, it's interrupted by this thing. And just imagine if you're not looking and you're just listening, and then all of a sudden there's this disruption with stuff that you didn't care about anyway. All right. Maybe, and this might be the 3rd or 4th time you heard this menu. As well. Like really stuff that's annoying to us is like an order of magnitude more annoying to people who have to use an assistive technology. So, so I like to tell people, like, just try not to be annoying, right? It's stuff that annoys you annoys other people a lot more sometimes, and to the point to where you might be losing customers over this, right? And if you look at some of this, like the contrast again and stuff like that. Sometimes the contrast or the strobing effects are so bad that it actually hurts people's eyes. Like, I've had this happen where the font contrast is so awful, it actually hurts your eyes. And I like to tell people, like, look, if your software is physically hurting people, you are a jerk. Like, stop doing that.
This text above my head right now that I just messed with here, reading that word sample right there, that level of contrast will hurt your eyes. That hurts my eyes.
Yep.
To even try to look at that.
Yeah, so whenever it's anything like that where the contrast is that terrible, just consider you might be physically hurting people. You're in a way assaulting people with your software, which we're giggling about here, but seriously. If you're physically hurting people, it's not good. Your software is not good. So, and again, these are just really easy changes. You just go into your CSS file, hit that color contrast checker, and just make sure it's a good contrast. And there are so many color combinations. It's not like you can't easily find something to replace it. So,
yeah. Cool. Makes sense. Okay.
Oh, yeah, last little bit. Do you have a form somewhere?
Form, yes. I have forms. Yeah.
Forms are big on the internet.
We have a couple of cruddy forms if you want to see the ones that we actually have in here.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Like I have this cruddy form that it's not very good.
That's good enough. Okay. So some things we would want to do here. First of all, so if I'm filling this out, we would assume that I would know something about what this is supposed to do to start with.
Yep.
The labels, you definitely want to use semantic HTML, which basically means HTML5, kind of get up with 2018 people. So, if you're using tags like the label tag from HTML, and make sure that goes along with the text box. Make sure that the labels are clear, right?
That should be a label.
Yeah, I realize this is, just for your personal use here for managing this site. But yes, so you would have, and that's nice that ASP.NET does do a lot of this kind of adds in these things for you. And something you could do to assist screen readers is, for the whole form, you could tell it like, hey, a form is coming. So you could do that with a field set, right? So you could say, hey, I'm using a field set. So that's just an HTML tag, right? And inside of, and just wrap that around the form in your fields, right? Then if you have things like check boxes or radio buttons, well, you don't really have any on here, but anything that's grouped, check boxes, radio buttons, or even a couple of text boxes that need to be grouped together,
like that one.
Use the legend, right? Just to say that it would be grouped together, right? If you're doing that. For things that are required, I mentioned before, you could, the little red asterisk, okay, but remember, you might have a colorblind issue, but also to make it clear, just put the word required. Not everybody does realize, and don't forget there's other cultures out there too, to which a little star doesn't mean a whole lot, right? So, if you could put the word required somewhere or somewhere, nicely denote that fields are required, the ones that are. Another thing we could do to help with screen readers and other input devices, and particularly since this is input, you can look up the W3C, what are called ARIA tags. So ARIA is Accessible Rich Internet Application. I believe that's what the acronym stands for. And what this does is it's just attributes inside of your HTML that gives a little extra information to a screen reader or an input device. Yep, so that's a good place to go right there, the MDN web docs on this. So what I might do is, if I have a checkbox, I might put, ARIA checked to say that it's actually checked, and then the screen reader would know, and it would say, hey, this is already a checked checkbox. Or if any input is disabled, I might put ARIA-disabled as one of the attributes of the input tag. And then that would tell the screen reader, hey, this is disabled. And remember, even though I'm using the word screen reader, not in a plural sense, I just keep saying screen reader, there are many of these. It's not like there's just the 2 or 3 that I mentioned. There are dozens of these things. And even though we have these standards, it's just like, word processor or other software. There are variations and differences, but the ARIA properties will help us and help those screen readers. Some of them are pretty good at just picking this stuff up without ARIA, but not all of them. So and it's just an attribute while you're doing up your forms. So it's not like you have to do all of this extra work or some crazy amount. Some things that you might want to do for your text box and label pairs. You can go into the text box and put the ARIA labeled by and tell it. And Visual Studio and WebStorm, other editors actually have IntelliSense for this stuff. Yeah. So you'll see ARIA labeled by, and then I could give it the ID or name of the label that is labeling this. And then this way the screen reader knows, hey, this label is for this text box.
That way, if you think there might be any misalignments in how it might get displayed, or if they can't really see which label was associated with it as the screen reader reads it, then they know.
Right. Yeah. And remember, it is a spectrum. So you might have completely blind people, but you might have people who just have some low vision or difficulty just, I took my glasses off and it's a little blurry. There's that whole spectrum that you're dealing with. Plus, the first thing I do is zoom past 100%, and every year it keeps getting, I have to keep zooming in more. So that usually the scaling, might pop a input box down to the next line or something like that. So this way, if they become a little disjointed as to the relation of where one element and the next is, instead of being maybe side by side, they may be top and bottom once I zoom in or something. It helps with those kind of things too. Or anybody using an input device that's an accessible device. So I could have those ARIA tags, and there's several of them. You can even do like ARIA hidden, which would help. What normally a screen reader would see something CSS as hidden, and it would be like, oh nope, I'm not going to read it because we're supposed to pretend it's not there. But I can give it the hint that ARIA hidden is hidden, so it might know to be able to use that later, or to be able to say this is a hidden element or something like that. So there's very many of these ARIA properties that you can use, and a handful that are very particularly helpful for forms. And ARIA tends to just deal with like roles, state, and properties, right? So what the element does, like is it a label, or the state, is it disabled or on or off, and a property, is this hidden or not, something like that. So it's just a little extra metadata, and it's not like it takes a whole lot of effort to stick these into your elements in a form.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing.
Oh, does autocomplete?
I like to tell people.
What I'm wondering is, does autocomplete maybe tell it to, like, I guess if the screen reader knew it was an autocomplete box, it might not be like trying to read every letter as it tries to autocomplete. Or something
it helps with things like that. Yep, because we do have a lot of that nowadays, right? With the text completion and stuff like that. And yeah, sometimes things that are helpful are not, for the bulk of users, are not always helpful for somebody with using an assistive device. So it's something just to consider. Another thing too is, I would say, I think people tend to, as just a trend in design technique, are kind of going this way. Letting people get all the way through the form before they start nagging them about any errors or validations. Like, wait till you get to the end and you try to click submit, and then, oh, hey, there's this one to fix. Go fix that. Right. So stuff like that, rather than, just like every time somebody tries to do anything bothering them. Now, there are many ways that you can actually have small hints as people go through the form. That's fine. But, for the maybe give them the alternative. You could give little hints, but let somebody go all the way through the form. And then if they haven't filled it out correctly, just don't let them submit. But don't stop them halfway through. That's often an interruption. And that one takes a little bit of maybe judgment on people's parts. It's not really a hard black and white law on that one. What else for forms? Oh, yeah, watch JavaScript. So people do stuff with the on blur and stuff like that. There are some other JavaScript that you should, I forget exactly which methods you should also call. But generally, if you don't have to run JavaScript every time somebody tabs or moves to another input, don't. And I really don't see a need for that now, unless you're doing that I'm validating you right as you go along thing. And if you do that, yeah, great, but just don't get in their way, right? Let them get to the end. So fortunately, you're using the ASP.NET templates there, so it doesn't do any of that, right? It behaves nicely in this regard. It waits till you get to the end, and then it just gives it, not this ridiculous modal dialog box that is hard to get out of, and it just gives you a nice little indicator of what's required or what validation you didn't pass, and then off you go. So it's generally pretty good. So that's stuff I like about ASP.NET. That particular technology has a lot of the helpers and tag helpers and HTML helpers, and even back in web forms, a little bit of the controls and things would do the right thing when it comes to that very often.
Yeah, because now that we're not, using web forms on this, we don't get a lot of those things for free, but there's not like that easy way to just configure it with how your user control worked. But we still have some of those same concepts if we use, say, like some templates in our JavaScript code. And by JavaScript code, I mean like, maybe even, the site loads up based on those initially, right?
Right.
So there are definitely some ways to reuse those pieces still, because we have partial control kind of things, partial views that maybe you've configured them with all those settings. So.
Yep. So as you see, even this stuff that we're talking about here is not, it's not rocket science to add these extra few things in or just really it's just modifying the way you look at and approach web development, right? Just consider that you do have people with the whole spectrum of humanity behind them that you're developing for, and what something, the way you perceive something is not always going to be the way someone else does, or the way you interact with something won't be the way somebody else does. But it's easy technical fixes. There's that.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll paste in a couple more links. Actually, some of these will be links I already pasted in, but so I have these, right? There's the wave. There's two checklists. One's a slightly older one, but it's nice to have them. So just put those in the chat window there. And there's our contrast checker. Then also, where you could get NVDA and 20 different, or 10, sorry, different screen readers. And I really suggest that everybody go and just download a screen narrator and then pick one of your sites that you use all the time and just sit and let it go and see if you can make heads or tails out of what's happening. And imagine like, gee, how is that for other people? So that kind of stuff is something that you want to do. Other things you could do on WebAim, somewhere if you dig around on the site, you will see they actually filmed blind people and low-sighted people and things like that. And it showed exactly how some of the difficulties are with using websites that just aren't accessible. So.
Neat. I wonder where that one is.
It's in there somewhere, and they've moved it once or twice, I think, but that's one of the ones I never actually capture and save a link for.
I don't see it in a quick search for just the word video.
Yeah, I'm looking. I don't quite. Oh, wait. Wait, here it is. This will give a little bit of it. So there we go. There's an experiences page
And
in which
I am
they
not going to play its audio.
show. Yeah. in which, it is very, most screen readers are very robotic and monotone, so. But there we go, we have that. And I'm still going to forget to bookmark this, and I'll have to dig it up next time.
Mm-hmm. So. As I said, I'm not going to run the video here on the site, but yes, it looks like interviews with people and some actually showing us how it actually works.
Yep, so you can actually get a little clip of the accessible technology in action as well. So.
Cool. That's a good link. Useful.
Yeah, I think everything up there on WebAim, it has a lot of good resources. So, and like I said, it's kind of big bang for the buck, right? You don't have to do a whole lot of heavily technical things or have a huge learning curve. You could just pull up your checklist and start with those couple of big ones, the visual stuff, the colors, the contrast, and then work your way down into the smaller ones. But none of it should be new to anybody as far as, it's HTML. It's, just good programming practices. It's, stuff you should already know. It's just applying this certain technique of, making sure your colors are contrasted well or something like that. So the technical side of it should be very easy and not even really any kind of like super new knowledge for anybody. It should be just leveraging what you already know. So, which is also very good too. So you don't have to spend time and money learning extra things. You already know these things, just going through a checklist and applying them in the proper way.
Yep. That's good stuff. Okay, so, cool. I don't want to keep you here too long. I know you said that, your time limit, so I want to make sure that you're cool with keeping going before we...
Well, yeah, I really should actually get going.
Because I was going to say, we've almost tripled the time.
I blabbed a little bit more than I was supposed to. So.
Yeah, I was like we're still going. I assume she's good. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't waiting for me to be like, hey, yeah, here's a good wrap up time. So, okay.
Yeah, sometimes
just want to make
hard
sure
to get me to shut up.
No, that's normal. That's normal. Okay, so up to you. We can talk about more stuff, or we can do an outro for you, or you can stick around and keep talking about this, or keep coding with me. Either way, it's up to you.
I'm gonna run off for a bit, so I'll just let you go ahead and disconnect then.
So, sounds good. So everybody, I want to make sure that I tell you all that you are required to thank Rachel for showing up and talking to us. Actually, you're not required to, but hopefully you enjoyed the information that she was able to tell us about, and thus you will. See, there's a bye, Rachel, in the chat. See, you got one. So, anyway, if you wanted to provide any links or anything like that, or mention anything, feel free to say stuff.
Okay.
Before I cut off the call. Anything you want to say to everybody?
No, just thanks for having me. And, I'm easily found on the internet, on Twitter and stuff, so you can send questions there or whatever is fine too. So,
I think Crimson Green posted your Twitter link at some point earlier, and it's also there right below your name and under your face in the corner, I think.
Oh, there we go. So, yep, that's it.
Yeah. Unless I typoed it, that should be it. So.
Nope, that looks like it.
Thank you again for coming and chatting with us today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks.
And yes. Hopefully we will have you back sometime in the not too distant future.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Right. See you, Rachel.
All right. Bye.
All right. We are going to do some more stuff here on the stream. Stream not over. Just changing what we're doing. So if you will all bear with me for one moment, I am going to start up music, which I don't usually have music running while we have a guest on the stream, just because it's could get a little bit tough if we're both talking at the same time, etc., and you know, music in the background. I just don't want it to be too busy. So there we go. Wait, what? What did Malachi say? Oh, yes, and Malachi, it's actually on the Twitch video section as well, so if anyone did come in late and you missed some of our conversation, you can find a recording of that here. So hang on one second, and I wanted to welcome everybody that came over from Gareth's stream, if you're still here. Thank you very much for that raid, Gareth. Let me go ahead and... Static methods are always a bad idea. That is a strong point, Malachi. They're frequently a bad idea, but not always. I think it depends on how they're being used, when and why. I don't know that I'd say they're always bad. They're not usually good. Okay. That on, and... There we go. Okay, adjusted. Yes, like exactly as James mentions, like extension methods can be useful as a way of extending behavior onto a class that you can't. Oh, Gareth, I've known Malachi for a long time. Malachi's been watching us probably for at least 6, 7, 8 months. Malachi is one of the earlier ones. Yeah, exactly. As Will says, not always, but like 99.4% of the time. So if you consider like essentially I tried to program F sharp and C sharp. Oh yeah. Okay. So we will have to take some of the information that we got from Rachel and make sure that we apply that to our site in future streams to be able to make some improvements. So I want to take some of those suggestions and use them. Let me go ahead and do this, though, because I don't think I have that set up right yet. So discard that and discard that for now, so I don't mess those up. Okay. That's a fair point. Sorry for stealing Malachi. Oh, no big deal. Malachi, people can watch whoever they want. That's part of the reason why I send people to you, Gareth. I think I've raided you at least once. Hosted you at least once, I'm sure. Raid requires that you were definitely running at the end of my stream, and I know that we were hosting you with an auto-host before this stream began. If you work in an enterprise environment, static methods are always used in a bad way. So, yeah, Malachi, that's actually one of the big problems. I would agree. Okay, so where were we? Let me turn off the overlay on our stream here. Hang on. So that we can code with the one that we've got. So, not that site. We want this one. Okay. So, welcome everybody. If you do not know what we have been working on here on the stream, I will go ahead and tell you about it. We have been working mostly lately on a game to be played in the chat here on the stream. So, if I show you what that looks like, looks roughly like this. So this is a screen overlay. So what we're looking at in this browser is normally displayed over top of the entire screen here on the channel. And if I go ahead and I just start up the game right now, you'll see that it puts it over here, and I can move around, picking up items, and move between levels. And this is the basic concept of the game, except that we want you to play it not with a keyboard and mouse like I'm doing here, but through the chat. So that's kind of the idea. So you'll notice the game reports back that I escaped on level 3 with that number of points, etc. So for now, we have the escape point at level 3 no matter what, and we might change things around, we might have different types of levels, but that's kind of the goal, is to make this playable by people, not necessarily just in our chat, but by anybody's chat who wants to run this. So they could run this game, they could put this in their stream, and they could have people play this game live during the stream. So that is the idea. And Janisku, maybe we might be able to do this as an extension at some point. I would have to look into how to do that. So okay. So the thing that I was looking at, I was making a couple of changes, which I don't necessarily have to do just yet, but at this point, this game is kind of playable-ish. We need a couple of pieces in place to help the chat play. So right now, if I load this, you would want to go right like a whole bunch of times. So you'd want to say like move right 6. Now when I do that, it's only going to move right once because we don't have a parameter to say I want you to do this repeatedly. So here's what we're going to do to make that work. I want to come down here and let's take a look at our move command. So wasteful move command is right here. And we have a set of valid directions that we accept of left, right, up, and down. And we are requiring the whole word right now, and maybe we'll change that at some point, but this is what we've got. So all we do is we take this command and we say, hey, you gave us a valid command. Okay, cool. I'm going to send that on to the JavaScript. So then I want to say, get a valid number. So I want to say, event args dot element it's dot arguments dot element at or default, and I want element at or default number 1. So assuming that we got an element at number 1, that would be the move. So in this description, that would be like the 6 right here. I would want to say, okay, that is a string. We need to turn that into a number. So if we don't have one, then I want to replace it with the number 1. So let's do this. int.tryparse of that. Let's pull this out as a string, actually, and we'll say this is move number text. And the reason I put text on there is because we're explicitly dealing with types here, where this one's text and the next one's going to be an integer. So I want to then say out int move number. So because of that, I do actually want to separate these. So if that's valid direction and this parsed, so that means that this was either a number or it was 1. And if they put anything else in there, we don't accept it. So we can do that, and we should pull all these out as a separate bit of validation. But let's say move number greater than 0 and move number less than, I don't know, 11. Let's make it it has to be single digit, we'll say. So single-digit number. If you need to move more than 10 spaces, then we'll yell at you. And we should probably have some better messages about this. So there we go. You can make a mess in every possible language. I'm trying to make my peace with working in bad code bases. Malachi, we will always work in bad code bases. That's just kind of how it works. Turn this back there. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if we can pass that number down. So, move number. So why don't we do this? Can I pass the default in this? Move number equals 1. If int.try parse move number text. Whoops. I declared it there. Let's say if we fail to parse this, then we'll set move number equal to 1. So if they gave us any bad data, anything that we didn't understand, we set its value to 1, and then it has to be greater than 0 and less than 10. So there you go. What is this? We should convert DevChatter to the dark side, make him embrace F#. Malachi, I was actually talking in yesterday's stream about how I do want to do an F# stream at some point. And I do actually want to point out that when I was originally planning to do DevChatter back in 2015, I was planning on having what I called back then segments. And I was essentially planning on doing like I was going to do katas on Tuesdays, I was going to do F# on Fridays, and I was going to do like GitHub's, like Git stuff some other days. I didn't end up doing the stream that way. That's not how we do it here, but that was the plan. And Malachi, you mentioned the Boy Scout rule, and I agree that is actually one of the best ways of doing of cleaning up code bases at all. A lot of people have talked to me about like how do you actually make a transition, because I've actually pointed out I've worked on legacy projects that were a long time ago that were completely untested projects, like no unit tests at all. We're talking, you know, more than a decade ago, and fully switching the project not only from an untestable web forms app over to MVC, the entire site, but we did not do it as like a process where that was our goal. What we did was essentially the Boy Scout rule. We had the whole team buy in on the fact that we wanted to move things to a better place. So whenever you went in to change something, your goal was make that a little bit better. And so we designed a little bit of here's the new structure we want to get to. When you're working with something, try switching a little bit of it over to the new piece. So slowly, just page at a time, feature at a time, we switched an entire application used by a business over to a tested, like automated tested, test coverage. We're actually getting metrics on that, which I don't like those metrics anymore, but we had pretty good metrics on that and switched the whole site to MVC, so it was very, very cool. The Boy Scout rule really can get you out of those messes. And yes, as Gareth mentions, I am planning on doing some F#, and I will definitely be talking with people about that. Or by using, you need to set the default in an else branch, or by using the, yeah, exactly, yep, thanks, Wheatlaw. Haven't watched a lot lately. Don't have the free time. Yeah, sorry about that, Malachi. Time is always of the essence for people, so... 10,000 line function. That's impressive, Gareth. I worked in consulting for a while, so I have seen those, like, tens of thousands of lines that are in one method, and it's always crazy. Okay, so... let's do this. Else to do give some kind of feedback about the invalid movement request. Okay, so let's see. That ought to work. So we're going to send that message down when we call move player. So that passed it into here. So move number right there. So we're going to say move number. This should just be the interface. Yep. Okay, so that should have modified this interface, which it did. So it added in move number right there. Okay, so now, in theory, we are passing down that number to JavaScript. So if you pass this in, that's what we're going to get down in that. So, yes, exactly, Specimen. 100-line functions are bad enough. We don't need tens of thousands. Since you're in a giving mood, add spec flow and reactive extensions to the list. I do want to cover those. I am planning on getting us Jest in this probably for our JavaScript unit testing that we don't have on this application just yet. But that is in the plans. So let me go ahead and open up this. Move player. Move number. Move number. So we receive a command that says move the player. And when we get this, we come in here and we say player, so direction, and we need move number. So we add a parameter to that. What's this? Our CEO wrote it originally, and it isn't a developer, so fair play to him for learning C# and it works. Oh, that's great, Gareth. It's always good when a company is willing to put in the money to clean up some technical debt. That's so funny. Janiscu got blocked by that. Malachi, financial domain here, so doubly typed application. Malachi, I have been brought on to teams as a consultant before where I got in there and they were doing all their financial calculations using doubles. You can guess what the first change was I made to the project. And that is changing all of those from doubles to decimal. Yes, exactly. All money calculation should be done in non-floating point. So some people use integers for money calculations. They just track everything in cents. So you can do it that way too if you want. But do not use floating point math for calculating money. You're just asking to have a problem later on. Okay, so move player direction number. How do we want to do this? We could make the call to do... So that's move the player and then update. We could just put a loop here. Let's... we could just do this, which I'm not huge on. So if we do that, we could just break the loop on the last one. Sorry, on this one, I mean. So we could just do that and break the loop. You can also do it in strings. Actually, Wheatlaw, you probably shouldn't, but you're not technically wrong. And Murky God Tier, welcome, thanks for following. I might take strings over floating point math, actually. So not that those are good, but I would take that over floating points, because I would at least hope that then, you know, the developer can convert those to numbers for doing the actual calculation. When you worked in finance, you dealt with fractions of pennies, so you used decimals. Yeah, exactly, Gareth. You do have to work with fractions of pennies, and sometimes you need to figure out what that lower limit is. So, yes, if you do integers, for example, your organization might decide that the numbers are stored in, say, like thousandths of a dollar, or thousandths of a pound or euro, depending on where you live in the world. Obviously, there are more currencies than just the three I've mentioned. So you just joined a company 1.5 months ago, so you don't have a lot of credibility, especially since I only have 4 years experience and other people have 10 plus. Malachi, experience does not always mean know how to do things right, because I can tell you the people that were using doubles to calculate money, and I came in and suggested we use decimal. They had, you know, every one of the employees in their organization had at least double the amount of experience that I had. And I can also tell you that in addition to that, they also had more time working in the e-commerce industry than I did, and that scares me because that means that probably their other stuff that they'd written was in doubles as well. So quite scary. Thousandths of a yen. Yes, exactly. 0.1 plus 0.2 equals 0.3. Yeah, exactly, specimen. And yes, Malachi, as a consultant, you do get taken a little bit more seriously for those kinds of things. So, anyway, I think we're going to go that route. I think that'll make it work. The only concern I have is that, so we do their update. The screen might not update, but because we call for their action each time, I think it will work just fine, and we will break if we get a move that's beyond that. So let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to restart the whole bot because I want to make sure that it gets the update to our command. So we're going to try this, see what we get. And while we wait for this to load, I will read some more chat. We show them a solution to a real problem, then you gain credibility. Yep. Let's try that again. Hey, Ed, welcome. Your mic is about to break. Any streaming mic suggestions? There are a lot of good mics to use. I just use a pretty cheap, like, podcaster mic. You guys don't ever see it because it's kind of out of the way, but I might have gotten a little loud there, but sorry if I did. But that's all I use. Links to all the stuff that I use are down below the stream. I've had this podcaster mic for I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years. Had it for a good while. It works reasonably well. Haven't picked up a new one since. But there are a lot of good choices for that kind of thing. Biggest suggestion I could make is find one you like. Oh, yeah, so I know a lot of people that use Yetis. That's like, they work pretty well. They're just, I usually hear about them being kind of cheap. So let's see, can I move up twice? Oh yeah. Move right, move down, move. Move right 3, there we go. So we jump over here, and so part of the problem with sending in those move commands that way is a zombie could appear right on me, and I don't know about it. So... So there we go. Do I not have... How did I lose my controls? I lost mouse controls somehow. How I lost mouse controls? I don't know. But that's a bummer. Okay, either way, that seems to work. So... we can definitely do multiple moves. And... What happened? So, actually, let's try this. Let me see if my character can die doing this. Move down 9, game over. So I don't even see what happens. He just got killed. So there you go. All right. So that actually worked reasonably well. I kind of want to put in on some kind of a pause. So maybe let's see if we can make those happen slowly so we can see the movement. Hey, BG Ricky, welcome. Thank you for that 4-month resub. Much appreciated. Can we get some hype in the chat there for that 4-month resub? Definitely a... Huh. Yeah. Keyboard controls stopped working. Hang on. We're getting a complaint from the Peanut Gallery here. Will's complaining on this one. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. There you go. Head nod. Congratulations. Okay, so the problem is he like jumps. And that I'm not a big fan of. I don't like the jumping around that he's doing. Okay. I'd like to see him step when we do those multi-commands. So, the first thing I'd wonder about is whether or not we're on the same thread that's drawing or not. And I don't know if we are. What's a good way of cheating I don't actually know how to do this one. Can I just cheat this for a second? Oh, I could set timeout. Now, what I don't... So if this doesn't work, we may have to pass the thread and call back kind of thing. We might be able to do like an async, and an await on this. And instead of waiting that, so we don't need to wait that long. We really just need to wait a very short period of time. Because we just want to, like, see him stepping around. Yeah, thanks, Malachi. Yep. I meant that it was different compared to most English I hear. Your voice is fine, but sometimes I get caught off guard by the pronunciation. Oh, yes! Gareth does have an accent. That is true. I have an accent as well. Mine is different. Gareth and I do not have the same accent. So, let's see. Move right 9. There was no delay in that. You kidding me? Still no delay. I guess I could put the code in it. Do I have to put the code in there? I guess what I could do is this. Instead of doing that, I could do this. I could pass in the move number and say if move number is greater than 0, then do this code. Treat it like this, and then the function you call is move player in the direction with a decreased move number. And it's move number -1. And then should wait that long and then call it. At which point you would only do that there. And then this you'd want to return so it did not continue. So it didn't run it again. So don't call the next one. Could take that route. Let's see. Try listening to a German accent all day. Yeah, Malachi, exactly. You still need to use the callback method from set timeout. Use set timeout with recursion. Oh, yeah. Yeah, isn't that what I just did? Didn't I just do this with recursion? I think I did. As long as you accentuate the positive. Alright, so while that number is greater than that, and then when I call this, I subtract 1. So I think that works. So first time through, subtract 1 wouldn't be greater, and we would exit. Yeah. Oh, okay, Wheatlaw. I bet you probably did say that before I did it. That is totally possible. Refresh the page. It's like it's not doing it. Yeah, the extra ones aren't getting called now. It shouldn't be Malachi, because we definitely reduced by 1 each time. Move player. Oh, derp. Yep, that's why. Okay, I see what's happening. It's this dot move player. There we go. Okay. Hey, there you go. You can watch him step. Cool. Oh, right. I can't go above 9. So that seems to work reasonably well, and you can kind of see him animating as he goes. The challenge is that we don't want to continue if the game is over, or if we're trying to get to the next level. I wonder what would happen. Let's actually watch what happens. So let's start. Whoa, why did you throw an exception there? That was weird. I don't know what that one was. Move up 2. Move right 9. Alright, so I'm going to move down 8, and we're going to watch as my character probably gets killed. Yep. So those movements keep happening as we get into the new level. So if you exceed the movement onto that, it will have those queued up into the next level as well. So I can sit here and watch as those guys come to kill me. So looks like that's working. I just wanted to make sure nothing happened if you tried to exit with additional movement. We might want to handle that, though. Stop recursion if going to new level. No, Wheatlol, I will. Those zombies will even figure this one out. Because that guy up top comes down and gets me. See? So one of them was eventually going to get to me. Okay, so that does make that work. Whoops, I meant to remove that. We don't need that or that. Okay, so allow moving multiple times in commands. No, so Wheatlol, they all prioritize horizontal movement first and then vertical movement. So once he got over to me, he could then come down and get me. None of the others were doing that, though. So that's why. I like the example from Specification Gaming Examples and AI spreadsheet that says agent kills itself at the end of level 1 to avoid losing in level 2. That's really, really good, Malachi. I like that a lot. Hey, Honest Dan, welcome. You hosted me with one viewer? How's that even possible? You must have rated someone and then hosted me. That's all I can think of. But welcome, Honest Dan. Greetings. Okay, if anybody doesn't already know Honest Dan, you should go check him out. I will post a link right there. Sounds good. I will ignore you. Dan, did I tell you what I was building? I don't know if I told you what I was building. I should get your attention on what I'm building, and actually I should click this too. So I am gonna mind you for a second. There we go. Hang on. There we go. There we go. So greetings, welcome, Dan. You should take a look at this. So if you go over to the game room in this, well, to be honest, Wheatlol, I am actually planning on grabbing one of the elements he had. I was actually already planning on building a game in Unity, but very different from what he was doing. There's actually something else that I wanted to do on my stream. They're getting rid of rooms. Aw, boo! This is a great way to not have to whisper, so I hope they don't get rid of rooms. I'm hoping they do something better with rooms, because I like the idea of a secondary place where people can type. But if you take a look, anyone in chat can actually control and play a game on the stream using these commands. What do you mean, to be honest? That's Dan's bit. Someone told me they're getting rid of rooms. And actually, the funny thing is that Dan is correct. That's why I commented, like, there is one element of his that I'm absolutely planning on borrowing, and that is the idea of teams. I had never thought of doing teams, and I think it's brilliant. So I thought that was the genius thing of what Dan did in his stream, is the teams. Someone tell you about what they have in mind as alternative? Oh, yeah. Oh, to the rooms in Twitch. I have no idea. Okay, so why is the keyboard commands not working? Yeah, so the rooms were also implemented very poorly. I know when I was trying to get TwitchLib connected to them that it was a big issue. So even connecting the bot to rooms was a pain. So huh. On key down event. Jazz, wasteful game. Sorry, Dan, I killed the game and then had you type something. Oh, that's how I broke it. Derp. Hang on, let me go to move player. Yep. Forgot to set the default. Param. This is a number. And it is move number. Number of spaces to move. Direction. Move player. Okay. Now it'll stop yelling at me. Yeah, Dan, I am actually enjoying the project I'm working on. It's been a fun one, and lets me draw a little pixel art, which is enjoyable. Okay, so that's working again. So I can also use commands and it'll just go. Yep. Let's see. If this game would work on Blazor, it needs to be used as BlazorLib, and there would be some JS interop for sure. Janisku, yeah, we could totally do this in Blazor. It would not actually be difficult. We're just using HTML canvases to do all of our drawing. We had this at our work today. Some of my colleagues have one of our servers named Temp1, which has been live for 1.5 years, but it will eventually go away. Yeah, exactly. Doing an unintentional copy of Stream Puppy, and had I known about it at the time, I might not have embarked on Twitch Deck. Is Stream Puppy basically a Stream Deck that runs in a tablet? Because as far as I know, that's what you're doing. You're a bit stuck on your own project. It's quite difficult to get all the things working fine. Oh, yeah. No, have a good one, Dan. Thanks for the host. Take care. Yeah, so I recently drew a little escape, another escape tile. So that was a fun bit of artwork that I was doing recently. Okay, so that's fix the keyboard movement by adding default movement number. Okay. Very cool, Gareth. There's a canvas interop for Blazor now. Oh, good, Ed. Yeah. That's really good, Ed, because that would be what we would need to actually have this be in C# in Blazor instead of JavaScript if we wanted to do that. Codair, hey, welcome, greetings. Yours isn't themed at all and just uses base Xamarin Forms stuff instead of looking amazing like Stream Puppy. Oh, that's actually kind of cool. Yeah, so as Wheatlaw mentions there, you do not want to compare stuff that you do as a hobby to what a person or a company does professionally. Current level number. Okay. Let's see. So we've got that. We call this. So we can do multiple movements. So a player could actually play on their own now. We don't need to do. Don't need to do anything there, so you can move around, you can add that. Let's add money. Unless your hobby project... yeah, sometimes your hobby project can be better. Oftentimes that means that, you started with some kind of an advantage. Either you already know a lot of the domain space that you're working in, or it can be something as simple as you're using more modern technology than they are. 1 second. I had some drawings that I did a long time ago. That I want to borrow. So I drew these coins a long time ago, and I'm wondering if I can do some kind of a pixel version of them. That's what I'm wondering. Can I do a coin pile? Let's resize my canvas to a 42 by 42 canvas. So there we go, paint.net. Let's see, Blazor extensions, HTML canvas, compare the hobby stuff with the one at the top canvas. Yes, Ed, Minecraft was somebody's hobby. No, so Ed, I've just been using paint.net for our little pixel art, because it works well enough. I get layers and things like that when I want to work with it. And I don't really need much more for doing pixel art than this. Excel is better for pixel art. You could use it. Oh yeah, see, paint.net scares him. Oh, give me a break. You can use pretty much whatever you want to make stuff. Alright, so I want to make a coin pile. Where did I leave my coin pile? So there's roughly what I want to draw in pixels. So I want to make that roughly. Okay. So how do I want to do this? I probably want to do the background ones first. Does paint.net have a mosaic filter? I don't know, but I'm usually not terribly worried about all that much stuff at the scale that I'm working in. Hang on. Whoops. I don't mind that color. Let me just borrow that. So let's roughly speaking make a couple of coins. So there's a coin. It's not really a coin. So we need some basic color to work with. What's my other color? That color? That color? Not bad. I don't mind those. Let's see. So let's save these two colors. Let's grab this color. Save it there, just for convenience. Okay. So we have these, and I want to adjust that to be this one. So I want to make these sort of round-ish. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's sort of cheat a little bit. So there's, roughly speaking, like an edge to this. Let's put that color on here. That's kind of coin-shaped-ish. A little bit? Whoops. No, it needs the rounder edge. Maybe up like that. There, that's better. Okay, so that's kind of coin-shaped there. Add the outer pixels on the top. You mean on a separate layer? Also, flight simulator created in Excel. I have no idea why. Malachi, that is actually amazing. Oh, what I just did. Oh, okay, yeah. So that sort of creates the edge of the coin there. So let's go ahead and steal that. And before I do, let me grab all that white that I created and just get rid of it, so I don't run into problems there. Duplicate the layer. Let's see what happens if I move this over here. Whoops, before I duplicate that layer, I did not totally get rid of that. I didn't get rid of all the white. Just go ahead and delete around here just to make sure we get rid of it all. Any white that I put in there. Okay. That all of it? That's all of it. Okay. Which I guess to check, I could have just come back here and just done one of these, right? No white. Okay. So let's duplicate this now. Let's move one of these over to the side. So we'll do that. Malachi, have a good one. Hopefully we'll see you back again soon. Hopefully your schedule is cleared up a little bit better to make that easier. And duplicate that. Whoops. Duplicate the layer again. This time we're going to move it over to here. This is not necessarily the ordering of the layers I'm going to have in the final version, but I do want to, roughly speaking, be able to put some of these in here, because that one I think I might want to drop to the back. And lower down here. Now, then I'm going to need to mess with shading a little bit as I add these in. Let's duplicate another layer, and let's put this one towards the top. Drop that behind some of the others. There we go. Okay, so now I need to figure out how to get some nice shading on these. Gareth, have a good one. Enjoy the reboot. Okay, so I want to darken up some of the coloring on these. So the ones that are above the others, we need to make that obvious. So if one's behind the other, so where is that one? Is that coin? Yeah, so this coin needs some color. So let's make our next color. So we're on this one. Let me just make it slightly darker. Whoops. Gonna do that. Slightly darker color. Might want to do fewer coins, and I need to figure out how to get them angled nicely, which is tough to do in pixels. Alright, I'm going to drop that one for now. Let's not stack quite so high. If we remove this one and this one, that's not bad. So let's look at it like this, with those ones, and then this coin I want to tilt down, so like it's resting on the other ones. So which coin is that? That's this one? So I can't just bend it. That doesn't quite work, because if I do that, you'll see what happens. It gets kind of fuzzy, because it doesn't know what to do with it. Right? Because we're at individual pixels, so it has no room for adjusting for us. I could bend it like Beckham. I can also put this here. Do one of these. It's that coin, right? Yeah. Okay, I think I'm just going to do this then. Is this coin? Yep. Okay. Gonna do that. That coin. Click on this one. We're gonna do that, that, and that. Any other coins on top of any other coins? No, I think that's mostly what we've got. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this. Well, I might try doing a poker chip stacking style as well. So let's do this. Oops. move those into the center, roughly speaking. They don't need to be directly in the center because it's going to show up on a tile-based grid, kind of like this. So that's going to be... This is going to be coin pile 0. And we'll adjust and tweak and things like that, but there's some basic coins that we'll do. And now I'm going to back up and get that coin so we can try stacking as well. So before we do that merge that I did there, there we go. Okay, so we have not merged down yet. Hey Greendolf, welcome. C#8. What about C#8? Yes, VS 15.9 dropped. I really, with the server for VS downloads, could keep up with my internet connection, though only downloading at 6 to 10 megabytes. Wow. Yeah, that's painful. Okay, so let's try stacking some coins. Let's do that. Okay, so... Alright, so we have this. Let me go ahead and get my cursor on that. Okay. Let's duplicate the layer. And we're going to move this up a couple of spots. Duplicate the layer. Duplicate the layer. Okay, so if that's what a coin pile looks like, then let's duplicate the layer and shift it over this way. Drop this to the back so this pile goes behind that pile. Duplicate that. Duplicate. Duplicate. So I'm going to be able to tell these are coins. Actually, yeah, you kind of can tell they're coins. Okay, so let's duplicate that layer, shift it down to the back, and then move its pixels over to here. Duplicate that. Duplicate that. That's not bad. Ooh, yes. Put a little shine on the coin. That's a good idea. Which I'll only really need to do with the top coin. So I like that suggestion. If you highlight the top edge of the coin, it might give it a little extra shine. I am going to look up coin shine. So, where does it... I'm trying to see where it looks like the light's coming from when I see shine on a coin. Because my light... So the lighting I have coming in from a direction, I know the direction that I've been trying to draw my pixel art. So I think if we're going to do that, I want to have... Maybe... I think I want it on here. I think I want it on the front, but let's take a look. That's a great question, Gareth. I'm not sure whether we could get away with a ribbed edge on it or not. But we might actually be able to give it the layer as well. So actually, before I do this, before I make this change, let me do this part. Let me actually give some depth to the coin. So where's a good spot on this to add that? That's a top coin? That's a top coin. Okay. So that goes up to there. Actually, I kind of want to hide every layer that's not that one that I'm drawing on right now. And the way I'm going to do that is this. I'm going to borrow a coin. Come here, coin. There's my coin. Oh, no, Ed, yeah, no, I'm not gonna... So I'm gonna do the shine in a different color, if that's what you're talking about. I was gonna do this one in this color. So that's how I was going to give a layer to the coin. Like that. So I was going to give it an edge, and then I was going to add a shine in addition to it. Yeah, so I was going to do that to do this shape, which was hard to see when drawing it in the picture, so that's why I pulled this out. So, and you're totally right. I definitely want to go much brighter on the shine. And actually, I might even do a little bit of... see what this color looks like. So this is not how I'm going to do it, but... how's that look? No, that color's bad. Let's go back to this again. How's this color? No, not bright enough. Nope, I didn't leave my other coins there. Ah, the Kotlin people are here. Huh. Not sure what to do with that. But those coins, I mean, I can definitely tell that that's a pile of coins. Question is, am I going to be able to tell that's a pile of coins when it's in the game? Add a vertical highlight down the line of the stack. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then darken out the layers so that there's variance in it. So let's do this color in the dark, whoops, that color on the dark parts of it. Actually, I need to shift it. That's not in the right spot. It's gotta be, hang on. Let's do it this way. Because I want it to really obviously not be on the edge of the stack like that. So let me take this color. At which point I'm going to shift the angle of my lighting up here. And we're just going to do a couple there and a couple over here. So now let me remove these 3 coins I added in on top. Steal that color again. Get rid of that. Don't save it. Okay, so we were doing like one of these. Oh, but that coin had the edge too. Dang it. Okay. Gonna do that then. Thanks, Will. Let's see. So that bit of that layer can disappear. And that's not quite lined up on this coin. Because I want that color to actually be there. I want this color to be there. I'd almost like another layer of, you know, color adjustment in the other one if we're going to do that piece, though. So let's duplicate this. Move that coin over to here. Let's duplicate the layer again. Move it up to there this time. Okay, so then on these ones, let's jump back over to this layer. Delete that. And then let's put this one here. Where's that coin go? It's 3 across from there, so that's 1, 2, 3. So that's the next coin. It really is blocking there. Well, I don't like the angle where I put that first pile, so bummer. Well, either way. Alright, let's do that. Whoa, that is not how much I wanted to grab there. Oh, right, I didn't merge the layers through. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Those are some nice looking pancakes. There's a lot of things that are going to look like a lot of things. But then, and I clicked the wrong button. But luckily it doesn't matter. There we go. This is coin stack. Yeah, exactly, Wheatlaw. As long as someone can tell that they're coins, if you know they're coins and you played the game a little bit, you know they're coins. So there we go. So, some coins. Let's jump back to our code. Let's see what we can't do about that. Why is this complaining at me? Oh, it's these, because I don't like that I don't have these defined. The grid object. Isn't it? That's what it's complaining about, right? Yeah. The player. You gonna stop complaining now, Visual Studio? It's literally complaining that we don't have the description in that. And yes, Ed, that is very true. Context is everything when you are in pixel art. Details of the player. Starting items for the player. This is canvas to draw on. Hub to send messages to. Is that the last of my errors? Will you stop squiggling? Okay, good. It stops squiggling the wasteful context page stupid thing. Okay. Let's say adding some art assets. So we're going to add just some basic art stuff. I'm not too worried about the commit message on that because it really doesn't matter. Because I didn't actually do anything with them. And this is fixing more JS doc warnings. It's really, really annoying there. The same thing with the Binding of Isaac. You don't know what the heck the things are, but you know they are supposed to be enemies. There you go, Wheatlaw, yeah. I have a feeling that so far in this game, in that artwork, everybody can tell what everything's supposed to be. I don't think there are a bunch of people wondering. Axes, swords, that's clearly a pizza. Why would it be anything else? Yeah, looks good. Okay, let's jump into our items. We need a new effect item, I think. We need a new effect item type, really. So let's go ahead and set a level building in the item builder. I need to pull these out into a separate class, but for now our item metadata, I want to have a different type of item we can pick up. So let's call this coin pile. That was coin stack. The other one was coin pile, I think. Let me just check that. Hang on. Open file in File Explorer. www.root images, and we called it coin pile. Okay. Coin pile 0. There we go. It is a consumable item that's an instant pickup. And its effect is not health, but money. And the points you get for it, a coin pile, we'll say, is what? 10 coins? You get... we're gonna give points? No, they get money for that. They don't need that. So we'll call that money. And they only need one effect then, so it's going to be single one. It doesn't need to be an array. It won't have multiple uses. Why do these have uses? What was I smoking when I did that? Yeah. Item effect.health. Could a coin pile be slightly random too? Gareth, maybe. So it's going to be random which type. But I was going to have the coin pile be 10 and the coin stack be like 30, for example, or 25. But yeah, we might be able to have both. So let's do this. So coin pile, coin stack. And we could definitely make this so that it's varying amounts, maybe within a range or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Like Wheatlaw just said, like 8 to 12 for a pile, 20 to 35 for a stack, exactly. Some variance on that. So if we add that, then we should be able to add them in as long as we change what type we want them to be. So these... let's open up our item types and take a look at the consumable item type. So item type, consumable, weapon, and it is a consumable. It is an instant one. Item effect, health, points, and I think I said money. That's what I called it? Money? Yep, it's called money. We don't care what kind of money it is, it's just money. Wheatlaw, so this is a thing in JavaScript. It's essentially, think of it like a unique value that is created from this, and we never actually know what it is. Alright, so this is bigger. So inside of item, find options, match case. Tackleable component has increased health. No. Effect item. Here we go. Yes, exactly, Wheatlall. So if you want to, you can recreate the same one, but keep in mind that if I create two separate ones from this, so if I made both of these be like this string didn't matter. I could have made this be health, right? And it's still going to make a new one. I think you have to do like, it's like symbol 4 or something like that if you want it to be the same one. There's some kind of special way of requesting that you want the same one that was used elsewhere. So in this case, I'm tossing these into this. I basically want to have essentially like an enum of these values, and I don't care what this type is, but I don't want anything to accidentally be this, so that's kind of the idea of the symbol. Nice, Ed, nice. Thanks for hanging out, much appreciated. You know, I'm gonna leave those. Okay, so if we take a look at effect item, so when we process the apply effect of the effect item, we're going to use money and increase money by the amount. So player whoops, amount. Okay, so symbols are like the named key. Yeah, basically. Yep. Exactly, Ed. So it's a key that you can use for all sorts of things. So one of the ways that I would describe it is kind of like if you created an enum, but instead of having instead of it being like a predictable number, it's not a predictable number. It is, think of it like doing a gwid.newGwid as the assignment of your enum value when you create it. So you have no way to know exactly what it is. It won't match any other one unless you intentionally want it. So the idea is you can receive that that unique value as the key that you're going to use. So in our case, you'll notice I'm using this value, so I don't know what this key is, but I'm assigning it in here. So when someone else gets this, yeah, sorta like that, Wheatlall, sorta like that. Yep. It's like defining an enum that's a GUID value instead of an int. Yep. Yeah, that's the concept. Okay, so where was I? Increased money. I now want to go to the info display. And in this, what are we displaying? We're displaying the player. Inventory items money. Money. So now over on player, wherever you had points being shown like this, I want to do the same thing but for money. Now in level building, I believe those money piles will now be able to just be picked. So let's go ahead and give this a try. I was only changing JavaScript here, so I think I can just refresh. And this might already be in here. Oh. So I was able to collect a little bit of money. And I think I escaped with money. It's not going to report anything about that, so it says I escaped with that and that. So now I need to report back what my money amount was when I left. Okay, so so that's inside of the game object. We report back when I die. So okay, end game. Remove those. Report back that it's end game. Invoke hub. Send up the points. The display name. User end type level. Held items. And money. So then in game end, on the hub, which is right here, we can add int money. Yes, I'm using integer for money instead of decimal. I'm tired, do I need a lawyer? I have no idea. Is that another dad joke, Will? And that number of coins. Wow, Will. Yes, it was a dad joke. That was bad. You're tired. Do you need a lawyer? Well, you're resisting arrest. No, that was actually, it was pretty good. To be honest, though, I am looking forward to. I've had like a cold for the past handful of streams, as you guys know. Really looking forward to not having this anymore. Okay. I realize I should definitely show zombies on top of food. Not the other way around. Points with axe, sword. There's my coins. Nice! It's a good set of stuff to leave with. And 10 coins! There it is! Okay, so we can report back obtained coins. Seems to work. So, yay. Let's go fix that coin pile, because I definitely messed it up. Let's save that. Coin pile. Magic wand. Delete. Sure, you can update. That's mildly annoying. Okay, there we go. What was I? Paint.net, get out of here. Okay, so this is removing background. Fix the coin pile image. We'll say remove the coin pile background. This is going to be adding money. Adding pickupable money. Adding money piles to pick up. It's okay, 5% of your commits are things like remove new lines. Oh yeah, exactly. Yep. A lot of times we'll make commits that are just like fixing up some code. It's not a huge deal. What have you got to do to keep your code base clean? Always nice to do the little changes every once in a while. I want to make sure I click a couple of buttons there. So I want to make sure that everybody that is in here is sure to check out our Discord, as it is a chat application where you can talk with me and a bunch of other people that are here in our community. Link you can find over there in the chat or down below the stream. And GitHub is where you can go to take a look at all of our source code. So if you want to see anything that we do here on this stream, you can find all of the code for what we're working on. You'll notice it's mentioning the branch I was just working on right here. So you can actually see the commits that I just sent up right now. So that's that commit right there. So you can actually take a look at any of this code, and you can make contributions if you want. You can send us pull requests, you can take a look at the code and give us feedback on stuff, make some suggestions for improvements. You could make some pixel artwork if you wanted to send us some pixel artwork to use in the game. It's especially nice if you make it actually do something. Additionally, if you want to check out our videos here on the channel, you can find archives of the stuff that we've done before in the video section here on Twitch or on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hello, or watching this video, hello person in the future, I hope it's nice. And lastly, you can follow DevChatter on Twitter at DevChatter_. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Brendonius. You can actually find me a lot of places on the internet under that name. And with that, I want to click a button. I'm going to click this button. I want to thank everybody for coming out today and watching the stream. I really appreciate it. And thank you for being nice to my guest from earlier. So thank you, Crimson Green, Greendolf, Stoolpenner, and everybody else that helped out moderating the channel today, and all these nice people that followed, as well as BG Ricky for that resub, 4-month resub, I believe. And thank you, everybody who hung out today, chatted, and generally was nice. So appreciate it, everybody. Take care, and we will see you on Thursday for our next stream. And if you forget, you can actually check down below. I fixed the schedule there. I don't know why that extension doesn't get the fact that my time zone changes, and so it should treat it as such, but who knows. I have an interesting thing that I'm hoping to do on some future streams related to time zones and time tracking and scheduling. So hopefully we can see you all back for that. We've got some fun stuff planned, and I'm going to be doing some more Learn to Code in C# streams as well. So keep your eyes out for those, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye, everyone. Thanks.